welcome to today's call. So, as always, I have such a delight and special guest that I am so happy to bring on board. Let's just put it that way. His name is Manny Pureheart. Let me tell you a little bit about him. So, for over a quarter century, Manny has been known as a psychic's psychic, a healer's healer, and a teacher's teacher. That should explain it all, right? So with clients and followers all over the world, he is widely recognized as one of the most insightful and effective energy healers and intuitive counselors in the world today. The short version is that his story is that he has had extremely good fortune in having died 5 times in the same body. His quote is, "I've been through the tunnel of light on several occasions, made some good friends on the other side who have wound up becoming wonderful teachers and guides." Manny, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
I am marvelous. Thank you. And thank you for the nice welcome.
No, and when you and I first connected, I completely stalked your page and I was so thrilled that you did want to participate and come on board. Because just the essence of you, and then talking to you afterwards, you really are a healer's healer, a teacher's teacher, a psychic's psychic. You have this knowing that just flows out of you. And I am so honored and happy to have you here and talking with us.
I'm actually blushing. I can feel it in my face.
Yay!
I'm just a human being doing the best I can. I've had an exceptional, extraordinary life, but I'm no different than anybody else, and I'm not special. And I do my best to show other people how to do all the things that I do. It's, like Christ said, that which I do, you also could do.
Right.
And I do my best to share what I have with those who are willing to be shared with.
No, and that's part of having a beautiful soul. I mean, it's just knowing what you know and sharing. And I think that's part of, at least for me, that's everything that I want to do. Kind of that saying, what I want to do when I grow up.
Yeah.
It's to be
I
able
hope I
to,
never grow up.
well, there we go. So let's start a little bit backwards. So in the
Okay.
introduction, we mentioned that you have literally died 5 times in this same body. Can you talk to
Yeah.
us about that?
Okay. Well, actually, it was nearly. It's just about 6 weeks ago. It was nearly 6. But
Fun.
the first time I died, I was in my very early 20s. Um, Back before there were shoulder harnesses in your cars, you had seat belts, and that was it. And I was coming home from work after working a night shift at UCSD Medical School, and I was coming up across a overpass, and somebody came off the freeway, turned left in front of me, and hit me head on. And I was wearing my seatbelt tight, but it didn't really help because I put my head through the windshield. I broke the ring off the steering wheel with my chin, and the horn button hit me in the middle of my sternum and broke it in half and bounced the top half off my backbone.
Wow.
And there are things in between there that aren't supposed to be squished.
Right.
Um, and I won't bore you with the entire story, but suffice it to say, I survived that. But I had a most incredible, beautiful out-of-body experience. I entered the fabled tunnel of light, and instead of seeing, most people see friends and relatives or whatever in the tunnel. All I could see was at the far end of the tunnel was a portal that was so incredibly bright. I mean, the tunnel of light is much brighter than anything you'd see on Earth, but the portal at the far end made it pale by comparison, and I knew that that's where I wanted to be. And in that instant, I found myself stepping through into the other side, across the veil. And the moment that I stepped through, I was flooded with awarenesses. I knew that because everything on the other side of the veil is made of pure light, and that light is love, there were no shadows. And because there were no shadows, all things were truly one. And the corollary to that is that in our realm, the darkness in all of its forms only serves to give us the illusion of being separate.
Okay.
After there were so many things I learned, like I say, just in the instant that I stepped through. When I died, I knew I was an agnostic. I knew that there was a God somewhere, but he'd never really bothered to prove it to me in a way that I understood. Uh, Not that he had an obligation to, he, she yet. Anyway, after about what seemed like 15 minutes on the other side, I looked up, and coming to me through this most gorgeous garden was a tall robed male with a beard. I couldn't see the face, but I knew it was what humans refer to as the Christ. And he came to me and embraced me. Still takes my breath away 50 years later. And when it was time, I stepped back. There was a tear coming down his cheek. He says, "Welcome home, brother.
Hmm.
You can either stay here or you can go back and help the children." And for me, there was no choice to make. This is what I do.
Right.
And we've stayed in touch, and he's been a good friend and a good teacher. I'm still not a Christian, and I don't think he would be either, but not
Right.
especially not today. But
Yeah.
that's all personal choice. Anyway, that was the first death. That was my major death. That's the one I could say really counted. In the years to follow, I drowned. I had a temperature of 105.6 as an adult, which was supposed to have killed me. It didn't. I had a duodenal tumor that blew up and dumped most of my blood into my intestines, and had an appendix that ruptured, and I had peritonitis and gangrene.
Oh my God.
And then just recently here, I woke up one morning and I had a pus sickle for a toe. It had gotten infected, and I had sepsis, and they amputated the toe, and I almost died from that. So, but I find it's very interesting. Every time spirit kills me, they move me up a notch. It's like, okay, time to split the shell and come out as a new form of butterfly. And what I found so fascinating about this last experience, and I can't quite call it an NDE, but it's real close. They were real concerned whether I was going to make it or not. And there was a moment where I knew that I had the option to leave. But as a child, I had a recurring dream where I started out in a stark desert in a ghost town that nobody had been in for 50 years, and there was no paint on any of the buildings. And long story short, I followed a cat jumped out of one of the windows and went through a fence out into the desert. And so I went out into the desert following the cat. There was nothing else to do. In the dream, it was just me in the desert and the ghost town. So I started following this path out into the desert, and as I went, I started out following the cat's footprints, and the path was so faint I couldn't even see it. And the further I went, the cat's footprints faded out and stopped being part of the dream, but the path became stronger and stronger. And I looked off to one side, and here, about the size of a golf ball, was a yellow faceted gem. And I picked it up and I looked at it, I put it down, and I walked on the path. And I continued. The further on the path I went, the more of these jewels that I found in different colors. And finally, I got to the base of a flat-topped butte with a spiral road going up it. And as I went up that road to the top of the butte, there was more and more gems. And I got to the top of the butte, and it was littered 6 inches deep with gems.
Okay.
And in the middle of the top of that flat butte looked like a Roman building, no roof on it, just the columns in the corners, and then the lintels between the columns. And I went in, and I stood in the middle, and I looked up, and here was the universe as bright as it could be, just smiling down at me. So in the moment, flash forward now to my toe amputation, and that in the moment that I felt like I had the opportunity to leave, I had a flash vision. I mean, it was here and gone in a split second, but it was one of those visions that keeps unfolding.
Mhm.
And I saw like a pen and ink sketch of a pit viper's skull. Pit viper is like a cobra or
Okay.
something like that. And it was like it was on paper, but all of a sudden it just lunged at me. The mouth came open and it lunged at me, and I knew that was death coming for me. And it was so amazing because I didn't react at all. I had no startle, no fear, no nothing. I just went, and the snake dissolved into dust and powder. And the powder, as it settled down, became larger and larger and began sparkling, and it fell through the barrier between heaven and earth, and it became all those multicolored gems that littered the top of that butte and the desert.
Oh,
And it was like, this is the this is the this is the this is my last upgrade for this body, but I have reached the pinnacle and I can grow from there. And it was just such, I'm choked up, such a gift, such a beautiful thing to see, to experience.
right.
So anyway, that's my short story. You should hear the long one. Anyway,
But it's beautiful that you're able to not only experience it, but to have that knowing and that understanding. Like I think for me that's like the gift of
it
just
is
realizing
absolutely.
what it is and appreciating it. I think so many of us, not even to that degree, just so many of us don't appreciate the gifts that we actually have and we've been given in this life. But you've seen so many of them.
Yeah, it's been an extraordinary lifetime. Just that's the only word that fits. I've written several books. Actually, I've written three, published one, and about to finish a second one, and just recently decided that for years people have wanted me to write an autobiography, and I don't feel like I'm important enough to write a book about, but my experiences are. So I've just decided about 3, 4 weeks ago that I'm not going to write an autobiography, but I'm going to write a memoir, and I'm going to tell some of the stories of some of the experiences from this extraordinary life and to share them with others.
How do I even say this? Um, I know some because you've been able to share with me on a previous call some of
Yeah,
your story. And I think it is honestly, I think it is such a gift if you would share that with people because it is your experience and your story of these magnificent things that, like you said, we are all capable of. And
right,
it's kind of like that scientific study where um I don't remember who it was or what year it was, but it was like the whole thing about the running, the marathon. Somebody said
yeah,
nobody can run more than X amount of miles. And then finally somebody did it. And now it's like nothing.
right,
It's showing the people kind of the way and that they could do it. And then you find the belief in yourself that they did it, it can be done. And I think that would
exactly.
be a great gift.
Yeah, it that touches on so many of the teachings that Spirit's given me that I share with others. And one of the most important ones is nothing ever happens to you. It always and only happens for you.
Yeah.
And it just yeah, when I first awakened, I was awakened on my 42nd birthday, which was a long, long time ago. Uh, but my business was failing, my marriage was failing. I was broke. I was living by myself in a shabby trailer in the woods in Central Oregon. And I woke up that morning, and in my bedroom there was only one little window way up high in the corner. And I woke up and I could hear the wind in the ponderosa pines, and I could hear the squirrels, scolding each other, and I could hear the birds chirping. And I sat there on the edge of the bed for probably an hour with tears of joy just streaming down my face and an ear to ear grin that still pops up from time to time. But it was uh, it was an enlightenment experience, and I had no idea what was going on. I spent several years seriously thinking I was going crazy,
Mm.
and I finally decided that uh, if I'm going crazy, it seems to work pretty well and nobody gets hurt. So bring it on. Let's do this.
So what
But,
exactly do you,
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was gonna say, what exactly were you going through that you thought you were going crazy? Because I think a lot of people are waking up now, and for everybody it's different, but what was your experience?
Well, I would hear voices in my head, or I would hear. Okay, I have to say, when I say that I hear something, when I say that I see something, it is that I have the illusion or the impression of hearing something or seeing something. When I have a vision, it is as though I had just witnessed a something. It's like an extremely powerful daydream once removed.
Okay,
All kinds of detail like that pit viper head. I can still see it,
right.
um, and it just it's like the memory of something powerful
Mm-hmm.
is the best way I can put it. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't go through the brain; it simply exists. It's not a matter of being or doing; it's a matter of is.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, well, for instance, I was a single father of a 16-year-old son, and he had gone out to bring some wood into the house, and he came in and he had three huge blisters, water blisters on his arm. I don't know what he'd gotten into out there. And Spirit told me, hover your hand over his arm, but don't touch it. And so I did, and it took maybe 30 seconds, and I could feel energy flowing, and Spirit says, it is done. And I took my hand away, and there was no trace of the water blisters.
Wow.
In another case, I had my own. I designed and handmade jewelry. I still do. I raised a family on that. So just I like creating beauty. Anyway, I had a jewelry store in a resort in Central Oregon, and a woman came in, and we were talking, and I think she had had a headache, and so I removed her headache for her, and she says, I've got a friend in New Zealand that has had headaches since she was 16 years old. She's 32 now. She can't hold a job. She can't keep a relationship. She's ready to kill herself. And like I said, I was all brand new to this, and I closed my eyes for a minute. I could see her. And I described the woman I saw. She says, "Yeah, that's her." And I said, "Okay, I'm going to send her some healing energy." And what Spirit has taught me to do, rather than invading somebody else's space by going up to them, putting my hands on them, so I allow a I allow the energy pattern of whatever it is I need to work on to appear before me,
Okay.
and I work on that energy pattern, and it translates directly to the physical being.
Right.
So I did whatever it was that I did, and about 6 weeks later, the woman that had come in to see me came back in. She says, I just got a letter from my friend, and she hasn't had a headache in 6 weeks.
Wow.
And, she's started a job and she's got a boyfriend. So,
Wow. A
yeah,
complete change of life because she was thinking of like ending it.
it is, it's so incredible to be so intimately involved with so many miracles.
Mm-hmm.
Broken bones heal instantly. Cancer goes away instantly. I had one gentleman that came in that he was he was part of a Christian sect that believed in faith healing, and somehow they'd heard about me. And some of his friends, four of his male friends, brought this old man in, and it was winter time, and everybody was all bundled up and everything. And this man was talking to me, and he was so severely jaundiced. His eyes and his skin were bright yellow, and he had I guess it was an advanced liver cancer, inoperable advanced liver cancer. And so his friends had brought him to me to work on him, and I had him sit down. I put my hands on his shoulders, and at that point in time, I would send my consciousness, what I call upstairs. And I did that for about 45 seconds. And I just, when I do that, all I do is love and get out of the way. And I just let whatever wants to flow through. And after about 45 seconds, he got up and turned around, and his skin was pink and his eyes were white.
Wow.
And I was told to tell him tomorrow morning, let's see, no, you're going to feel like $500,000, which is a really odd thing to say. But tomorrow morning, you're going to really feel like $1,000,000. It was a Saturday. That night, the Oregon State Lottery drawing was held. He
Wow.
won $1,000,000.
Wow. Wow.
So, but I could tell stories all day long, but it's so incredibly astounding and satisfying, and there aren't any words to be able to move through the world and touch other people's lives with love and watch them heal and blossom and grow. And many of the people I've worked on have wound up becoming healers, and it's like I'm the first pebble in that
Mm-hmm.
stream, and the ripples just keep going. It's just
And that's what I was going to ask you. So in two different ways, I know that you, like you just said, you have helped people and you've taught people how to do that. Which one, I myself would be fascinated to work with you in that way, right out there. But second, because you just said that all you did was love and get yourself out of the way.
yeah.
How do we get out of the way?
We divorce ourselves from any feelings that we may have for or against a certain person.
Okay.
We Pure love is my only tool, and that's divine love. When you have human love, I call that love with a small L, and
Okay.
divine love is L with a capital L. But human love, it's I love you, love, and
Mm-hmm.
you're trying to force this universe of healing love through the little tiny keyhole of I love you,
Mm-hmm.
instead of I am love, and here I will share.
Okay.
It's a huge difference.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's difficult to work on, for instance, my wife. It's because I have so much human love for her.
Mm-hmm.
That sometimes it's hard to set all of that aside to work on her. I can to some degree, but I wish I
Because
could
there's
do it
like the
all.
blurry line right there.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So totally off subject, but kind of relating.
Okay,
I have two little animals at home. I have a
okay,
cat and I have a rabbit.
okay.
The rabbit, so my daughter just left for the university
Yeah.
2, 3 weeks ago. The day before she left, the rabbit's eye,
Hmm.
horrible. Like if you look at her from one side, she's a cute little fluffy thing. You look at her from the other, she looks like a zombie. Like it's
Yeah,
just
yeah, all
white.
bloodshot, and yeah,
Right.
yeah. She got an infection.
Right. So my daughter completely freaked out, not only because it's her bunny and the whole thing, but because she was leaving the next day.
Right.
Long story short, my daughter left. I've been taking care of the bunny. I've been taking her to the vet. She hasn't gotten worse, but she hasn't gotten better either. We
Okay.
don't know what's going to happen. Point is, yesterday, yeah, I think it was yesterday, I finally sat down to meditate and I really connected to Isis,
Right.
like I was doing a meditation and I connected it and I got to Isis. What was I don't know if it was my mind or literally it was the bunny.
Mhm.
In my meditation, I see that I am holding the rabbit. I
Mhm.
am holding her there in front of Isis, and I am slash asking for healing slash seeing her healed.
Right. Yeah.
And that's why I think I asked you, how do you get yourself out of the way? Because when I help somebody, I am not like a healer in any way that I consider myself a healer, although I know I could. But it's because I get in the way. So it's like I want this rabbit to get better and it to heal. So I don't know which way to see it because I know half I was asking and half I was trying to see her heal. Does that make sense?
Yeah. First of all, I want to tell you that your statement, "I know I'm not a healer," is the biggest roadblock you could ever throw up in front of yourself.
Guilty. Yeah. Okay.
We are all healers.
Okay.
We have been trained to believe that we are not adequate, not good enough, not holy enough, not connected enough,
Yeah.
and that is all BS.
That's true.
And it's okay. I'm going to share with you. There are a few little snippets of teachings that Spirit has given me over the years that I quote verbatim because I don't want to color it in any way. And this is one of the most important ones. Spiritual growth is never, ever a matter of growing more. It is always and only a matter of limiting less. And if each day you limit yourself less, there will come the day where you will realize that you have always been limitless.
My eyes got watery. Okay.
Mine too.
Yeah, my eyes got watery, both of them.
Yeah. Truth is being spoken.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing. I can feel that, but I let my head get in the way.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Um, I know that you like to think that you meditate, but you don't really.
Yeah.
Uh, that was not a question.
Yeah.
And
No, I know.
it's spoken with love.
No, I know.
Um, and the grounding that you do is pretty perfunctory. Um, I think the first time we talked on the phone, I helped you ground over the phone,
Mhm.
and that's a level that perhaps you should. I don't want to use the word should. It perhaps is a level that would help you if you practice that more.
Okay.
Okay, so pardon me while I give you a reading over the air here.
No, it's fine. I'm completely open and everyone that watches the show knows that I am completely open and vulnerable because it's through seeing this that they also learn and because
Yeah,
that's why I said no, I agree. I have been trying to meditate, but I haven't been able to. I haven't
yeah,
been able to connect. I know that for sure. For sure.
yeah. If you tried more often, it might help.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving right along. Did I mention I'm a psychic?
No, and it's fine and it's true. Like I notice how I get caught in my head.
Yeah,
And okay, a quick explanation. So where I live now, I moved in about 2 years ago,
right,
meaning I am looking into, I'm not going to renew and I need to figure out where I'm going to go.
right,
Yesterday, precisely the reason I was trying to meditate and connect is because I realized when I moved in 2 years ago, I felt much more connected to everything. Right now, I'm kind of like in the to do stage,
yeah,
which means I'm in my head.
yep,
Yeah.
yep. I agree.
Yeah. Okay. So precisely that. So what can we do? Like I know you told me, but what are some steps people can do that find themselves in a situation like I am?
It has to come from within. It can't come from without. And nobody can force you to do it. And it's like an alcoholic. They're not going to change until they recognize that they have to change.
Okay.
We get addicted to the merry-go-round. We get addicted to the monkey mind running things. And that's one of the big advantages of meditation. Um, Going back many years, there was a point in my life where uh, well, in fact, it was right before the first time I died, right before this chest being caved in. I was working nights and I would get home in the morning and it would take me up to 8 hours to go to sleep. I would lay there and my
Mm,
monkey mind would just be going. I'd find myself reading, with my eyes closed, I'd be reading the 1908 Sears catalog about high button boots for 25 cents a pair, things like that. And I'd hear conversations that were nobody I knew, had nothing to do with me. Now, this was before I had any inkling that I had any psychic gifts, and it was just before I had my sternum broken in half. But I got this guidance. I had no idea where it came from or anything. Just I got this idea to try to meditate and I just imagined a little gray screen right in front of my third eye. And every time I had a thought, it would appear on that screen as a little yellow dot, just kind of traipsing across the screen from
okay.
one direction or the other. And I learned, uh, I learned to encourage that dot, not try to make it do anything, but I encouraged that dot once I saw it on the screen to go back where it came from
Oh, okay.
on either side. It took me probably 2 or 3 weeks to achieve 2 seconds of a completely clear screen. And it taught me it took me a good 6 weeks to get, 10 or 15 seconds. When I got to the point where I could keep that screen closed or clean for 20 seconds, roughly, I wasn't timing it, but roughly, my monkey mind says, okay, I give up, I'm out of here. And all of a sudden, my mind is at peace.
Mm,
I can close my eyes and be asleep in 30 seconds if I need to. Um, and and I, I it's kind of okay. I want to say I'm in control. I'm not in control, but I'm in control of my own thoughts at this point in
mhm,
time. As it turns out, the technique that I just told you about, it's in one of the free meditations that I have on my website,
okay.
um, is a centuries old technique from the Far East.
Okay.
And it was my past lives speaking to me and
Nice.
preparing me. Yeah.
Well, I kind of wanted to talk about past lives.
Okay. Oh, that's right. Okay. Past lives are pretty easy to see once you learn how. I've taught thousands of people how to see their own past lives,
Oh,
and it's very interesting. The having experienced several death experiences myself, I can verify that the legend of your life flashes before your eyes is true.
okay.
Uh, and Spirit explained that to me. And of course, Spirit's got a sense of humor. So they said that in your last instance in that body, you go through that entire lifetime and gather whatever wisdom that you have gained during that lifetime, and you encapsulate it in that final instant. And they
Okay.
say that that capsule of wisdom is the period at the end of your life sentence.
Okay.
And when you see a past life, almost always what you see is the end of that life. And what you're doing is you're gathering that wisdom and bringing it forward with you.
Oh,
And
okay.
my understanding from Spirit is that as spirit, when we decide to reincarnate, it's like going into this big walk-in closet, and we can choose our gender and our abilities and disabilities and our skin color and our hair color and our parents and all that stuff. but we've only got so much room in the suitcase.
Mm-hmm.
So we come to Earth with what we can fit in our suitcases out of this infinite closet.
Huh. Okay.
When we and that includes a certain level of wisdom.
Right.
So once we get here, if we then go back and look at other lifetimes, and we don't even consciously do it, but we gather the wisdom from that lifetime and add it on. It's like when you go on tour somewhere, you go travel somewhere, you can only take 2 suitcases, but when you go, you can buy things and ship them back or,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. You can add to your collection while you're there.
Mm-hmm.
So we add to our collection of wisdom while we're here by visiting past lives. Now, there are some the reason that most people see only the last moments of that lifetime is because if you get too involved in an old lifetime, it can literally take over this lifetime. And I had a situation several years ago that it turned out very well, but for a while it was really scary because it came very close to taking over this lifetime. Because
Wow.
somebody that I was helping to understand a shared past lifetime with kept asking questions, and I have to deal delve deeper and deeper and deeper into that past lifetime. And it nearly took over both of our lives. It was we had to kind of forcibly pull ourselves out of this is now not 30,000 years ago in Atlantis.
Right.
Uh, but it has worked out real well because the now I have very detailed memories of a 600-year stint as a teacher in Atlan, and we called it Atlan. Uh, I lived to be 874 years. I taught for over 600 years in the same body, and I've run into a lot of my students in this lifetime that when I take them back in their soul memory to visit Atlan, uh, they I'll tell them about something and say, and over here is such and such over, and they remember. But anyway, this being that I was, his name was Davol Lachnamor, and he was such an incredible being that now I am in the throes of writing a book very loosely based on that lifetime called Soul's Sojourn,
Yeah.
and it talks about how this wizard basically, I mean, he was a teacher, but in by the time he got into medieval England, he was considered a wizard. Anyway, he undertakes to raise a young man, and they visit elves and fairies and dragons and ants and all this stuff, and the young man winds up becoming Merlin.
Hmm.
Anyway, that's the book that I hope to have finished by this fall.
Nice.
Yeah,
Very nice.
I'm excited about it.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Okay, speaking of elves and fairies and stuff like that, I've been always connected, not always, but I've been connected to the angels, but I have also been connected to fairies. Are they
Yeah.
they're not exactly the same essence, but how, I don't know. I think I have trouble kind of, okay, I'm like stumbling over my own words.
Welcome to the world.
It's like I kind of know it, but
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it. So let's just back up. So last November, I went on a 30-day road trip with my sister, and one of the places that we reached was Sedona.
Yeah.
In one of our hikes, it was by a little river, super nice, super this. On our way back, I just had this immense feeling of being home.
Hmm.
So I told her, I like stopped her, and I'm like, we know each other. So when I just went like that, I'm like, wait, give me a minute. She knew that I was going through some kind of process. And I just stood there and I could feel
Yeah.
the trees alive. I could
Yes.
feel
Yes.
where we were. But what shocked me, what shocked human me, I'll put it that way,
Mhm.
was that I felt at home because I felt like part of the fairies. Like I felt like
You
I was
were.
a
Yes.
fairy.
Yes. Yes, you were.
So it's kind of like, a, it's hard for me to explain, but it's like a knowing.
No, I understand completely, believe me.
So, okay, but then my question is, are fairies, they're in another dimension, they exist at
They're
the same time.
trans-dimensional beings, yes.
Okay, but then if I was a fairy, or part of
Yeah.
me is still a fairy, what knowledge could that help me, human Angie, me with now? For example.
For example, it could help you connect with the plants, with the life of the earth itself, with
Okay,
the natural realm. You got a fair connection, but you don't have a deep connection.
okay.
Like it's in the fairy realm, um, the technologies doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
The pollution. I mean, it's in the dimension without humans.
Right,
It's it's idyllic.
right,
In the dimension with humans, it's problematic.
right. And what's
But
funny,
yeah, I'm just writing right now a fair amount about the fairies in the
oh,
book,
nice.
and yeah, they're cool critters.
Yeah, and to me, it's kind of like I feel light, like fun, light. Like when I
Yeah,
connect to that, it's kind of like a giddy feeling, like a
yeah.
happy, giddy, lack
Well,
of a better term, magical feeling. It's like all, yay.
that is our soul's natural state.
Yeah,
That's where we should be.
that's where
And
we should.
again, I
That's
don't like to use the word should, but that is an ideal place for us to be.
right,
But we're worried about paying the bills and the monkeypox and COVID and
right.
Putin's
Everything
next
else.
move and
Hmm.
things like that.
Right. And that's the other part that there's so much to learn, not only about us completely, but the other dimensions, what they are, how they exist, and how we all interrelate one with one another without even knowing it.
Yeah,
Because when I connect to, let's say, for example, the angels, I can totally see how everything is intermingled, but yet separate.
right.
So it's kind of like a big mesh of everything all at once. And yet we're only so focused on like things that are present in front of us.
Mhm. One of the things that Spirit taught me is that when we get kind of overwhelmed by this world, step back, step way back, and look at it through the eyes of Spirit. And
Okay.
when you do that, time expands. Instead of being focused on this, you
Right.
can focus on this. Reality shifts. When you see things from far enough away, the greatest chaos exhibits a pattern.
Oh, okay.
And so when you retreat to the spiritual view of things, you're well, okay. One of the other core teachings that Spirit gave me was that, and of course you've heard this 1,000 times, is the old thing about being a victim or being a student.
Hmm.
But Spirit says, do you know what the difference is between a victim and a student? A victim says, oh, why is this happening to me? And the student says, oh, why is this happening to me? And it's that shift in consciousness that pulls you out of the chaos and into the distance where you can see order within the chaos.
Hmm.
And Spirit also says perception creates reality. What's yours? So that which you choose to perceive becomes your reality and your truth for as long as you choose to perceive it as such. And when you decide to change what you perceive and how you perceive it, you change your reality. We're capable of dancing among the dimensions. We're capable of standing with one foot in one dimension and one foot in another reality. We can do anything we want.
That actually happened to me. And So I think it's fascinating that you're able to teach people how to do it consciously,
Mhm.
because a lot of things that have happened to me have just like happened
Yeah.
like that. I was able to walk in one timeline as I was walking here at the same time. It was
Yeah.
the most incredible and insane thing at once. I mean, I'll share this quickly. We were in Athens and I was walking through the temples
Mhm.
as a tourist nowadays, short sneakers, camera, family all around me. Here, post, take picture. Like I am actively being a tourist. And at the same time, I am looking at the temple and it is not ruins, it is fully built.
Yep.
The people that are around me are the people from that era, the dress, the market. I could smell, I could even smell the two
Yeah.
different realities.
Yeah. It was a breakthrough reality.
It really was.
Yeah.
But it was so insane because I was actively being a tourist, like taking pictures and smiling, and I was actively participating in whatever I was participating, who I was with. And I remember we stopped there as part of the cruise. We went to the temple of Athena, and the goddess, I just say the goddess because it was Athena who came to me, started talking to me. And I kid you not, she would not stop talking to me for like 3 days. Like I remember
Yeah.
being in the cabin telling one of my sisters, she's driving me insane. Like I think it's awesome, but she's driving me insane because it was a nonstop
Mhm.
conversation. And then
You
it
weren't
stopped.
she was talking for 3 days because you weren't listening.
Oh no, I was. No, that's the thing. I think she actually took advantage that I was listening because
Okay,
I was
good.
writing everything down and it was like, and by the way, blah, 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 blah. Like
Yeah. Good.
it, but it was amazing. But then, but again, all of my experiences, and besides maybe I meditated and fell into an experience, all of my
Mhm.
experiences have just been random,
Spontaneous, yeah.
spontaneous.
Um, one of the things that I'm noticing that I would like to point out to you is when you have these events and you recount these events, you use the word insane a lot.
Really?
And yeah, your trip to Sedona, it was insane. And your trip to, and
Okay.
and this is self-programming.
Okay.
This is how we reinforce the material world's hold over us. No, it wasn't insane. It was extraordinary.
Wrong word. Right. Okay.
Perception creates reality. It was extraordinary, not
Okay.
insane.
Which actually could bring us to another point. The words we use, we're not conscious of them. Like when you just pointed that out, I'm like, oh, I do.
Exactly.
Like we are not conscious of the words we actively use.
Exactly. We have been we have been trained from birth to reinforce the trap that we were born into.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why so very few of us are able to fly free. But once you do, oh, once you do, it's just it's extraordinary.
So I'm gonna ask a rhetorical question, although I already know the answer.
Okay.
So for example, people like myself, using me as an example, what I have to do is really watch my words and kind of focus into perceiving more of the reality that I do want by being aware of what it is that I'm saying and doing now. Because I think a lot is trying to come to me, and obviously I am the one blocking it. And at the same time, I'm asking, why is this not happening? But like we just pointed out, I'm saying things and I'm doing things that I am not aware of. So I
Yeah.
think once those things are worked on or changed to perceive them differently, I think there's a whole abundance of information that's going to come at me or through
You
me.
you have learned much, grasshopper.
Yay!
Take the pebble from my hand.
Yeah, but it's tricky. It's tricky to do, no?
Absolutely. There is a wonderful tool that Spirit gave me that helped me with some of my, in the beginning, helped me break some of my habits that I didn't want to carry forward. In this particular case, it was just a simple thing like biting my fingernails. I didn't want
Okay.
to do that going forward. And they said, assign a part of your consciousness to sit outside of you, looking at you, and just remind you when you begin to do something that you don't want to carry forward.
Okay.
And it's just our minds are so powerful.
Mm.
They're our most powerful tools. So you just request that a certain part of your consciousness sit outside of you and just watch you. And when you use words that undermine you, that sabotage you, ask it to give you a little nudge. And then you have the opportunity to say out loud, I really didn't mean to use that word. What I really meant to say was such and such. And when you bring it into the material realm and you correct your errors on the spot, it you can't believe how effective that is.
Okay.
It is just incredibly effective. And you can use it for smoking, you can use it for kicking the dog, you know, anything
Right.
that you anything that you don't want to carry forward, set that intent out here and then listen to it.
Okay. Hmm. I'm gonna try
It's
that
all
one.
so simple. You know,
It is.
that's the thing with the spiritual tools. It's the essence of simplicity. People have a tendency to say, "Oh, you got to whirl around 3 times and click your ruby slippers and say there's no place like home. And by the way, give me $20."
Right.
And it's not about that. I mean, what you see here, how many tools do you see me using?
Right.
You know, and in our conversations, you know how effective I can be even over long distances.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't use tools. I am all that is required because I am part of the I am. And if you don't own your divinity, how are you going to perform divinely? If you do own your divinity, then miracles are part of every day. And I do own my divinity, and miracles are part of my everyday.
So how do we get to fully owning our divinity?
Well, that's the path each one of us has to walk, isn't it?
That's the path of spirituality though, right? Of
Yeah,
us connecting to
yeah.
us. Okay.
But remember, it's never, ever a matter of growing more. It's always and only a matter of limiting less.
Right.
And as I was beginning my journey and going through the period of thinking, I'm going crazy, Spirit kept telling me, trust and believe, trust and believe. And over that first year where Spirit blocked me from doing any reading or talking about spirituality, and they said, let us teach you directly and purely for 1 year. And then after that, you can follow anybody you want, you can do anything you want. Over a period of 1 year, that trust and believe became a total of 5 words. And they say, these 5 words provide the parameters for spiritual growth. And the 5 words are trust, believe, allow, appropriate, and love. And trust and believe can be considered almost one word. It's trust yourself, believe in spirit, trust spirit, believe in yourself.
Okay.
And that is the foundation of your spiritual home.
Mhm.
Then allowing and um, allowing and appropriate are the walls. And again, it's almost like one word. Rather than trying, most of us try. That's a very aggressive, acquisitive,
Mhm.
material realm thing. And allowing is when Spirit said aloud to me, I saw myself holding a soft pink ostrich plume nest that was warm and clean and empty. And there was nothing in it. And I never expected anything to be put into it, but I knew that something would arrive.
Okay.
That's allowing.
Okay.
So trust and believe is the floor, allow and appropriate. Oh, and whatever arrived in that nest would be appropriate within the mind, the eye, the heart, the spirit of divinity. So you have the walls and the floor. the roof overlying all is love, which is divine love, which is not love for or of, but is simply love. So trust, believe,
Hmm.
allow, appropriate, and love. I was teaching this for about 7 years, and I was in Spokane at an expo, and I offered it to a young man that came in, and the Spirit said, give it to him as a mantra. And I hadn't realized that it makes a sentence. Trust, believe, allow appropriate love.
Oh, God, yeah. Huh. And I think that's where some of us maybe break off in different parts, because some of us believe but don't trust, some of us trust but don't believe. It's like we have to have a combination of everything and allow it to be, like
Yep.
actually allow it for all of it to be.
Absolutely. You have to have the floor before you put up the walls. You've got to have the walls before you put up the ceiling.
Right. And it's
And
not so
without the
much,
ceiling, you don't have a house.
right. And it's not so much focusing on one wall and not
No,
the
it's it's
entirety.
it's it's stepping forward, stepping forward in the entirety of your being. It's not like I'm going to move this piece. It's not like a chessboard where you're going to move this piece, then move this piece, and move this piece.
Right.
You have to own that you are all these things and step forward. When I first was awakened, one of the very first visions I got, I don't know if you know what an English broadsword is, but
Mm.
back in the Middle Ages, where men were about 5'2", and they'd go out and do battle in armor, a broadsword is a two-handled sword that is about 5 feet long. It's as long as a man is tall.
Okay.
And so I had this vision of this broadsword being laid out right in front of me and then turned up on edge like this. And I was reduced in size to the point where I could stand at that point where the blade just stops being the handle and starts to be the edge.
Okay.
And I was told that my job in this lifetime was to walk that razor's edge, be true and straight and follow the straight and narrow. And I was scared to death that I was going to fall off that silly edge, because I knew that if I fell off, I would never get back on in this lifetime. And so I really concentrated on walking the edge of what was right, what felt right. And after 2 or 3 days, I, would go back and revisit the vision. And I discovered that I had little grooves in my feet that helped me stay on the edge. And after a couple of weeks, I discovered that I was walking on the edge. Either I'd gotten smaller, or the edge had gotten wider,
Mhm.
and it was like 4 inches wide, and I could walk on it fairly securely. And after 6 weeks, it was like walking in a meadow. And I knew that if I turned left or turned right and
Yeah.
walked determinedly over I could fall over the edge if I wanted to.
Right.
And I get to the point now that I probably could still fall off the edge if I wanted to, but it's pretty much a universe that I'm walking in.
Hmm.
So it's just a matter of the more you focus on following spirit, the more everything else falls away and the more spirit becomes a part of your everyday walk.
Okay. Beautiful.
Yeah, I've never put it that way before, but yeah, I like that.
Yeah. No.
Thank you guys.
Yeah. No, and it's beautiful. It's it's kind of like what we all believe and seek. We know it is, but it's
Mhm.
actually doing it and feeling and being there.
Right, right. It's nothing you can do half-heartedly.
Right. Right.
This is my life.
Right. Okay. So the last question I want to get to you before I kind of let you go, although I don't want to let you go.
I'll be
Um,
here.
it's more towards the ascended masters,
Okay,
and that leads to the question with the painting behind you.
okay.
Can you tell me who that is? Is that, I want to say Saint Germain, but I'm not sure.
It's everybody you want it to be. If all beings are one, who is it?
Oh, okay.
That was done many years ago, by a very gifted spiritual artist, and I had been asked to ask him to do a spiritual portrait of me.
Oh,
So we've got the wizard right here, which was the one he did.
okay.
Then this one right here was done by a woman who was a Walt Disney artist who felt compelled to do a spiritual portrait of me. And then there's another one, oh, back there, right behind me there. It was done by a very, very gifted French woman very recently as a another spiritual portrait of me. But, you know, what labels you want to put on them doesn't matter. It's the first time I ever taught a class in spirituality. One of my students, who wound up being my teacher that day,
Mm.
was I was channeling my own higher self at the time, and she says, "Excuse me, if we're all one, who are you channeling?" And it was such an eye opener for me, and
Mhm.
I recognized that if all beings are truly one, then we are the divinity and everything south. And so it's up to us where we want to position ourselves in that line. So I
Right.
position myself as high as this body and this consciousness will let me go.
Well, I think that kind of sums up what I was going to ask, because when I saw it, I, for some reason, it looked like Saint Germain, or I don't know why I thought of Saint Germain. And then previously you mentioned when you had a vision that Christ came to you, Jesus Christ came to
Yeah,
you during your first trip to the other side.
yeah. My first trip across the border.
Right. Across, yeah. Which reminded me, years ago, I saw him in a vision. Jesus Christ came to me in a vision, which kind of leads into what I'm going to say now. So I was sleeping because it was a dream. And he actually came to me, and I saw him right at the foot of my bed. Like, it was in my bedroom. It was at the foot of my bed, but behind us, I could see that there was, like, I don't know, chaos. It was like I don't want to say tornado, but it was like a natural event. I don't remember
Right.
exactly, but it was like let's just say a hurricane or something.
Yeah.
But he was in front of me with surfer shorts, crazy surfer
Yeah.
hair, literal surfboard, and a t-shirt. I could feel his love. I
Yeah.
could feel it. No ifs or questions, but I could feel it. And in
Mhm.
that same instant, the lesson for me was it didn't matter how he appeared to me. He was
Absolutely.
love.
Yes.
And that's kind of why I wanted to talk about the ascended guides and the ascended masters, because we as humans kind of want to label everything like we just talked about. We want to put a specific title or enable to make our brains figure things out.
Yeah.
But I think they're all just highly evolved souls who just love as well. And they're just
Exactly.
teaching what they know.
Yeah. One of the secrets to my abilities is that I think that I have much greater capacity to love than most people do.
Okay.
So it's like my love button has been turned up to 12, and I'm not talking about physical love. I'm talking about
Right.
just, yeah, love with a big L.
Right.
Um, yeah, I mean, love does conquer all. It's just as simple as that. Love does conquer all.
Hmm. And that's pretty much basically the teaching of anything in spirituality. If we really
Exactly.
look at it to like the deepest, most simplest lesson. And for example, energy healing, we can have theta healing, Reiki healing, all these fire
Mhm.
healing, all these different things. But basically, all we are is sending energy, and the energy is love. I mean, we just want to do
Yeah.
it in different ways.
Yeah, the different healing modalities, it's the same as the different religions. Those are all leaves on the tree. Let's go to the
Right.
root.
Right.
Let's go to the root. The root in religion and healing is love.
Right. I don't remember who said it, but I remember hearing from somebody the problem in quotes, is some of us have a misconception of what love is. And I think that's what sometimes the difference, like you say, the big love, big L, small L.
Yeah,
I think when people believe in how much can you love, they're still thinking of this small love
absolutely,
version,
absolutely.
and they're not
Yeah,
understanding.
yeah.
And they, myself included, I'll say it because sometimes I fall right back into the other group, but it's actually knowing and understanding the beautifulness, because I can't even say the word, of what it actually is.
Yeah. Yeah, there are no words to adequately describe what I felt when Christ embraced me.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps that's what awakened the love in me.
Mm-hmm.
But I can reach around the world and touch people's lives that I've never met, that don't even know I exist,
Mm.
and change their health for the better.
Right.
It's just time and space don't exist. They don't matter. I mean, like I say, the first time we talked, I was doing work on your body, from Oregon, and you're in what, Texas?
Yes.
Yeah. So, and that's no problem. It's only a problem if you choose to perceive it as a problem. Perception creates reality. So I perceive myself to be limitless. I'm going to say limitless in training.
No, I love that. And I think that's a path I think you and I are gonna talk about more often
Yeah.
for me, because I realize, like, you called me out. I try to meditate, but I don't. It's like I put myself in limits that I'm not even aware of.
Well, yeah, and my sense is even when you try to meditate, you got your mental list going.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's an avoidance tactic. That is your monkey mind helping you to avoid going deep within.
Right. And that's what
And that reinforces the monkey mind's power over you.
I've noticed. I've
I
noticed
have
because
too.
it kind of rebels. No, no, and I could hear it. It's like
Yeah.
it wants to rebel, and it's like, haha, I was able to not get, and it pisses me off because it
Yeah.
does. It's like, damn it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's and again, the reason I say it and I'm vulnerable on these calls and I tell it, I say it as it is even in my own life, is because
Mm.
it happens. It genuinely happens. And it's a matter of understanding and knowing what you just said, that limitless power and being that we are, and yet we limit ourselves, sometimes unconsciously and sometimes consciously.
We're trained to limit ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a purpose behind that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not
Precisely
our
because of how
purpose.
powerful. Right.
Um, I what was I was going to say? Oh, there's a very I'll give it to you real quickly. It's a real simple technique. If you choose to perceive that your monkey mind and all your other little things that aren't helping you actually are entities, and you ask them to come all together and be in a meditative state, ask them to form all together and just become a little entity in the palm of your hand, and just say, I no longer want you. I no longer need you. I return you to source.
Okay.
And you can feel it go. You can feel it lift out of you and off of you.
Okay.
Our minds are so powerful.
Yeah, they really are. They really are.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so
You're so
much.
welcome.
I know
I,
that
I
part.
really enjoy doing this. Thank you.
No, thank you. And it's like food for thought, but not really. It's kind of like a refresher conversation for my soul.
You know,
There's
my job is just to tell people what they already know.
yeah, but we don't remember it. That's why we
Yeah,
need conversations like this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I
You're
want to,
welcome.
don't really want to, but I have to wrap up. Where can
Okay.
people find you? Where can they follow you? Where can they get more inspiration?
Well, I have a Facebook page, Monty Pureheart, and I post from my book of answers every day on that.
Mhm.
And I just opened a new website that's about 90% done. It's Monty Pureheart, MANI Pureheart, just like it sounds, .com. And that just opened up. I have to share real quick. Many years ago, some Native American folks I was working with told me that amongst themselves they called me Pureheart, and of course I was immensely flattered. And Spirit says that's going to be your last name, and I said,
Mhm.
"Well, won't people think I'm bragging?" And Spirit laughed at me and said, "You misunderstand. It's not a description. It's a challenge. Now live up to it."
Oh, oh,
And
wow.
that one interchange changed my life. That that's the same as let's walk this sword.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be pure heart.
Wow. Beautiful. Absolutely
Thank you.
beautiful. And you do resonate it. And I do believe that your love power is amped to 12 because you
Yeah,
really do resonate it. And
I do the best I can.
I thank you for that. And I'm happy I made you blush at the beginning of our call.
I blush pretty easily. It's funny for all I've been through in life. I'm really fairly innocent. I mean, I'm certainly not innocent I'm innocent in spirit.
Mhm.
Let's put it that way.
Which is
And
for
I
me,
like
that's the
that. I
meaning.
like that a lot. I like the
Yeah,
fact that I am.
yeah. And for me, that is the meaning of pure heart.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
could be.
yeah. Well, again, thank you so much. And
Thank you,
thank
my
you.
friend.
And thank you for everybody here. I told you today was going to be an amazing call. We didn't know where it was going to go, but it was what we needed to be.
Yeah.
Technical issues included.
Yeah. Many blessings to all.
That's it. Thank you guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.